Back in 2017, I had reached the lowest point in my life. I left my house, left my wife and kids behind, and I had no intention of continuing on. After I left, this guy that I knew calls me up. We'd never hung out before one-on-one, but he asked me if I wanted to go get a drink. I said, well, sure. I mean, a little alcohol could probably make things go a little easier. As we're hanging out drinking, he asked me how things are going, and I just lay into him, telling him everything that happened. He had no idea anything about any of it at all. Toward the end of our conversation, he looks up at me and asks me, where's God been in all this? I kind of laughed at him and said, God's abandoned me. Immediately after I said that, everything about him changes. His eyes go wide, and I kid you not, they start to glow. He pokes me right in the middle of the chest and he says, I have never abandoned you, my son. Pokes me again and says, I love you, my son. Pokes me a third time and says, I am not done with you, my son. And then he gets up, goes and pays the bill, comes back and has no idea what happened. Alright, I see a lot of y'all asking for a part 2 and you got a lot of questions, so here we go. I swear I'm going to try not to cry this time. Alright, so after leaving the lounge, I didn't have anywhere to stay. I didn't line anything up, so I slept in my car. I basically just spent the entire night trying to figure out what just happened. Next day, I was still confused, didn't know what I was doing, so I went into work as usual. As I'm sitting at my desk, the CEO's secretary walks up to me, hands me an envelope, and walks off. Doesn't say a word. I open the envelope, and inside is a week paid for a hotel. I, to this day, have no idea how he knew. So for the months before this, I'd been going to therapy, seeing a counselor. Well, that next night, I had another therapy session. Still confused, not really knowing what's going on, I went, walk in the door. My therapist is walking by, sees me from down the hall. As he's walking across the hallway, he looks over, sees me, stops, does a double take. He pretty much drops whatever he was doing, heads straight towards me. He had one of the happiest looks on his face. I'm running out of time, I gotta go part 3. Alright, so therapist looks at me and he said, what happened to you? And I'm just like, what are you talking about? He said, you're not the same guy I've been meeting with. He paused for a minute, smiled, said, he changed you, didn't he? I swear I wasn't gonna cry. So for all you want to know if I went back home, I drove straight there. I grabbed my wife, I grabbed my kids. I've never let go since. My life has never been better. If you're watching this and you're struggling, I want you to know I love you and God loves you. And even in complete darkness, He is there with you. Do not give up. Love y'all.